Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here today for our inaugural Between the Covers author conversations. I'm delighted to introduce our first guest, Russell Miller. Russell is an internationally recognized competition lawyer, academic, and author. He is a fellow and convener of the Centre for Strategy and Governance and former head of Minter Ellison's Australasian Competition Group. Welcome, Russell, and thank you for joining me here today.
Thanks, Michelle. Good to be here.
The first edition of Miller's Australian Competition and Consumer Law Annotated was in 1979. Can you tell me a bit about how the idea for this book started?
Well, it really came about as an afterthought. In 1976, Thomson's predecessors, the Law Book Company, asked me to do a service, the Trade Practices Reporting Service. And in the back of the service, we decided to put a copy of the Act. And as we had a copy of the Act in the back of the service, we decided to, from time to time, to annotate it. But the main point of the service was to report on cases as they were handed down by the courts. So the Act sort of stayed in this semi-annotated sense in the back of the book until 1979, when Thomson's had the brainwave to take it out of the back of the service and publish it as a standalone book. And the story goes on from there.
I'm wondering if you might even be the longest standing author of ours. I've seen a lot of
Well, at least I'm
interesting...
still standing.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of interesting developments in this area since then. What stands out the most?
Well, I think that's the book covers over 3,500 decisions. The latest edition of the book references over 3,500 court, tribunal, and commission decisions. So it's a bit hard to pick any one development that stands out. But what really stands out overall is the contribution the courts have made to ensuring that competition law was true to the aims of the legislators who in 1974 brought this rather unwelcome piece of legislation into existence. The courts have done a magnificent job in interpreting the Act. The courts took a piece of broad legislation expressed primarily in economic terms, which was foreign to lawyers, and made a significant body of law around it, embracing the economic principles. And that's what's remarkable about this Act.
I guess another question is, what inspired you to pursue your current career? What did you want to be as a kid? Did you always want to be a competition and consumer lawyer?
No, I wanted to be a pharmacist, but I couldn't add up, so that was the end of that. When my family, I think like a lot of young people, you start off with an idea, but those around you influence that idea, and mine was influenced by a copy of the handbook from the ANU. I read through the handbook. I wasn't very interested in pharmacy by that stage, and I came across law, and I don't think I had any idea what law involved, but it just looked interesting. And so I signed up for law, and what is inspiring for any young person, whether a lawyer or otherwise, is the teachers that you come across at university. And in my case, it was Professor Jack Richardson, who taught trade practices law as it was then known, competition law as it now is known, and aviation law. And I did both of his courses, and they inspired me to take a really deep and strong interest in both. I didn't think I'd ever see an aviation law matter in my life. But I went on to do the master's course with Geoffrey Walker at Sydney University in competition law. And by a miracle of circumstances, I ended up handling my first case in the competition law space was for the International Air Transport Association, a client who stayed with me for the rest of my practicing career.
And what is one thing about your field of expertise that almost no one agrees with you about?
Oh, everyone agrees with me on everything, Michelle.
Of course.
And those who are kind enough, those who are kind enough not to write to me from time to time and tell me, but nothing particularly stands out that I want to refer to in this interview. Thank you.
In your opinion, what is the most important personality trait or strength that someone would need to be successful in your type of role?
Understand your knowledge and experience and understand the limitations of it. Always be prepared to learn, and first and foremost, always listen.
Uh, Lastly, where can listeners purchase this year's copy of Miller's?
Now, Michelle, you should know the answer to that, but I assume one of the places is the Pavilion News Agency in Phillip Street in Sydney, and more importantly, directly from Thomson Reuters.
That's correct. On our website, available now. Well, thank you, Russell, for taking the time to share with us some of your insights.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.